On Sunday, May the 11th, 1980, the South Sydney Rabbitohs Rugby League team played the Penrith Panthers at Redfern Oval, Redfern, postcode 2016. The Rabbitohs won the game by a score of 59 points to nil. Some rugby league commentators saying Penrith were lucky to get nil. It was a big score, and in those days, tries were only worth 3 points, not 4 as they are now. South Sydney had a great team back in 1980, although some said that their jersey looked like a Minties wrapper. The next day, Monday the 12th of May 1980, I attended the Prospect County Council Apprentice Training School in Powers Road, Seven Hills. The training school was a workshop with a lecture room attached and accommodated about 40 overalled apprentices from various trades. From time to time a bell would ring, we would down tools and be asked to go into a lecture room where we would do some theoretical training. On this Monday the bell rang, we downed tools, but instead of going into the lecture room, we were asked to face towards the west, where we would hold a minute's silence for the Penrith Panthers after their big loss. As the only Panthers fan in the workshop, I was mortified. After we'd gone back onto the tools, the supervisor, Mr. Coleman, came across to me and said, "Panthers are going a bit ordinary, mate." 11 years later, on Sunday, September the 22nd, 1991, the Penrith Panthers played the Canberra Raiders in the Winfield Cup, New South Wales Rugby League Grand Final, and they defeated them by a score of 19 points to 12 in front of a crowd, an alleged crowd, of 41,815 fans. Winfield was a tobacco company and sponsored the New South Wales Rugby League until 1995, when it was noticed that tobacco products were unhealthy. As kids, we were fascinated by the various names of the cigarettes. Names like Craven A, Rothmans, Peter Stuyvesant, and of course Camel. My wife sat down and watched the whole match with me, which was a bit unusual. Normally she only lasted a few minutes before wandering off. But I believe she sensed how important this game was for me, particularly as Penrith had lost last year's grand final. At full time, I let out a victory whoop of sorts and turned to my full-time wife and said, "Dear, I'm just going out to the garage for a bit." I went outside and into the garage and I wept. My association with a losing team was over. As Panthers supporters, we used to say, "Never disappointed, only surprised." We expected to lose and any win was sort of a bonus. And this philosophy I found myself applying to people and my relationships with them. I kept this low expectation as a safeguard, constantly lowering my expectations of people. How many people grow up in the surrounds of low expectation, such that they refuse to reach out to try to get a win with people or situations? In the 70s and 80s, my dad and I would often listen to Panthers games that were always broadcast on 2KA, an AM radio station out of Katoomba, postcode 2780. The games were usually on a Sunday afternoon. My dad and I would be farting around in the backyard and listen to the game. Penrith were often in front, but would somehow always find a way to lose. "Never disappointed, only surprised," my dad would remind me. In those days, the Panthers jersey was predominantly brown, so they had the nickname the Chocolate Soldiers. And like chocolate, they would often melt under pressure. One of the 2KA commentators was Ian the Bear Maurice, and he lived down the end of our street. We would often see him jogging past our house. He also did TV commentary for Channel 9's Wide World of Sports. I remember him as having a slight lisp, but that may not be the case. My full name is still Glenn Raymond Anderson, as it was in 1980.